Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, DMs listen, we're going to be talking about CR-2 monsters. Monsters that DMs can throw at their players to give them a solid challenge and an interesting way of fighting. I've dug through the books, looked through the many different spaces in D&D, and found the best 5 CR2 monsters that I would recommend DMs throw at their players in the lower to mid game. CR2 is what I'd recommend as a boss monster for a level 2 party. Or if they were to get to level 5 or so, you could probably throw a few of these at them and they wouldn't be too difficult, but these are powerful enemies with very unique capabilities. So don't throw all of these at your players, but putting 1 or 2 in there could definitely spice things up a little bit. Before we begin, I'd like to let you know that Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships for just $1 a month. You can support me and what I do here. The join button just below this video will take you to there, and you get a little badge and your name next to the comments, as well as my undying gratitude. But even if you can't support, just by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, just watching, helps me out. So thank you so much for being here with me on my channel on YouTube. So, we're going to start off with probably one of the scariest creatures that a low-level party can run into. This is a monster ripped from Boo's Astral Menagerie, a book from the Spelljammer series. And it is the Space Clown. That's right. In D&D, evil clowns exist, and they're in space. It almost feels like the creators wanted to lean into the meme, which you'll see in a moment. The Space Clown has a 13 AC, but it has 58 hit points, so it's very, very tanky, and a speed of 30 feet. It has squeaking shoes, so if it walks, people can hear it walking within 30 feet. It creates an audible noise, which is hilarious. If it dies, it creates a burst AoE attack that creatures have to try to dodge, otherwise they take damage, so that's always nice that they're exploding space clowns. It has a shock attack, which is a melee attack. It's a touch attack. I guess you could think of it as the little hand buzzer, which packs a heck of a punch. It's got a +5 to hit and does 4d6 plus 3 damage. Very strong. And it has a ray gun, which has a +5 to hit, does 2d6 damage, and creatures have to make a wisdom save against it, and if they fail, they become incapacitated in a Tasha's Hideous Laughter style, where they just fall down laughing. So now this clown can not only mess with your mind by making you laugh, but then can electrocute you with their hands. Oh, and they have spells. They've got a few cantrips, which help them to scare people even more, but the main 2 spells that I'd like to point out is that they have mirror image, meaning that they can create duplicates of themselves that are illusions. That's terrifying. And possibly scariest of all, they know spider climb. So these exploding space clowns can climb on walls. This is a horror villain, if I've ever seen one. And the part where they really leaned into the meme was the bonus action ability Phantasmal Form. It says right in the book, you can read it, that it can change its form to appear like something less threatening, like a child or a balloon. And I'm not making that up, it's in the book. So they literally wanted this thing to be it, like the clown from It, Pennywise. But yeah, this is one of those enemies that even a seasoned player who knows how the game works will be scared by this exploding, squeaking, illusion-making, wall-climbing, evil space clown. So, yeah, if you want to really scare your players, you could throw one of these in there. Anyway, let's take a step away from the absurd, go back to the monster manual, where a lot of good monsters can be found. Let's have a look at the Orc Eye of Grumush. This is a spellcasting senior orc. They have an AC of 16, 45 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet. They have the aggressive feature, which means that they can move towards their enemies using their bonus action, as well as the Grumush Fury, which adds extra damage to their weapon attacks. They have a spear, which does 1d6 plus 3 damage on a plus 5 to hit, which you then add that 1d8 to it. So, it basically doubles the damage of the spear. But what's most dangerous about them is their spells, as is often the case. These guys know Bless, which means they can power up the other orcs on the battlefield. They know Command, which can be real debilitating, especially to a low-level party that doesn't have the best saving throws. And they know Spiritual Weapon, which means that they can very reliably weaponize their bonus action. And because Spiritual Weapon doesn't require concentration, it is not absurd to say that they can bless their orcs, cast their Spiritual Weapon, and then still go in and hit with their spear, just weaponizing everything that they've got, their concentration, their action, and their bonus action. There's nothing too crazy about this enemy. They're just a well-built enemy. Good hit points, good AC, decent attacks, very good spells. All in all, just a solid leader for a band of orcs, and a very powerful enemy at the lower levels. Speaking of powerful enemies at the lower levels, the Cult Fanatic, also from the Monster Manual, is a classic. Loads of people use cultists in their campaigns, and you find them throughout all the worlds of D&D. The Cult Fanatic has an AC of 13, 33 hit points, and a speed of 30 feet. They have the Dark Devotion feature, which gives them advantage on charm and fear effects, so they're hard to debilitate, hard to debuff. They have a standard dagger where they can multi-attack with it, doing a couple attacks, plus 4 to hit, 1d4 plus 2 damage, nothing crazy there. But once again, it's their spells that make them stand out. These guys are casters. They also have Command and Spiritual Weapon, giving them ways to both do extra damage and debuff the party. But even more scary is that they have Hold Person. Hold Person can take one of your best fighters or barbarians out of the fight entirely by paralyzing them. When you paralyze someone with Hold Person, attacks against them, especially melee attacks with this dagger, become automatic crits, and they can't fight back, making the Cult Fanatic pretty scary when you're a melee-focused party. I think that the Cult Fanatic, while not the tankiest or toughest, definitely rely on their magic more than the previous one, which is why they would use something like Hold Person. It's potent and strong, and you've got yourself a pair of powerful casters in the Monster Manual. One more from the Monster Manual before we leave it. This one, and I feel like every time I do one of these lists, I have to put a dragon in of some variety if it's an option, because this is Dungeons & Dragons. And at CR-2, we lean in to one of the most iconic dragon types in the game, the Black Dragons. And the Black Dragon Wormling is a CR-2 creature. For the record, a lot of folks like to look down on dragon wormlings, thinking, oh, this thing's just another beast. Yes, it can fly, but it's not that dangerous. Au contraire, a dragon wormling can put a level 3 party to its knees with minimal effort. They are not specced for CR2, or at least not anything except the best built. If you are a dungeon master and you have a level 2 party that is anything other than the best built S-tier subclasses out there, don't throw a dragon wormling at them, because it will devastate them. The Black Dragon Wormling has an AC of 17, nice and high. It's got 33 hit points, so it's not the most hit points, but it's enough. It has a 30-foot ground speed, a 30-foot swim speed, and a 60-foot fly speed, so it can utilize water to its advantage quite well. And it's amphibious, so it can breathe underwater as well as in air. Its bite attack isn't stupid strong. It's got a +4 to hit, does 1d10 plus 1d4 plus 2 damage on a hit. It's their breath weapon. It's always their breath weapon. The breath weapon, the acid breath of the dragon wormling, is a dexterity saving throw based effect and does 5d8 damage. For the record, the average roll of a d8 is 4.5. 5 of them, that means that against a failed dexterity save, this breath weapon is going to do 22-ish damage to everyone it hits. A level 2 party, almost no one has 22 hit points. So a failed dex save against this acid breath is basically instant death, or at least instant unconsciousness. And yes, sure, you can have your barbarian raging, but at level 2, no barbarian is going to be able to resist acid damage. It won't help. And this breath weapon recharges on a 5 or 6, which means it can be used a third of the time. And because this is a flying creature, if you don't have powerful ranged attackers like a ranger or a bow-wielding fighter, or if you don't have a spellcaster who has tuned their spells for heavy range damage, a Black Dragon Wormling could easily be a TPK for a low-level party. I would not recommend throwing this against any level 2 or 3 party that isn't built to the nines. So, very powerful CR2 creature, use with caution. Finally, at the end of the list, we have an entry that was in Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, and then it was updated in Mordekainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, the Duergar Mind Master. Duergars are the Dark Dwarves, and they're presented in this one as monstrous creatures, even though they are still technically dwarves. They have an AC naturally of 14, 39 hit points, and a speed of 25 feet. Very standard for dwarves. They have Duergar Resilience, which means that they are resistant to poison damage in the poison condition, and have sunlight sensitivity, so you're unlikely to find one just out in the open. They wield something called the Mind Poison Dagger. The Mind Poison Dagger is a dagger, does 1d4 plus 1 to hit on a +5 to hit, and that's fine and all. But it also is coated in a mind poison, which deals 3d6 psychic damage on a hit as well. So the dagger does a lot more than your average dagger. Duergar are well known for their invisibility powers, and these are no different. This is another recharge ability. Recharges on a 4 to 6, so it's usable half the time. And the Duergar can just become invisible, the same way the invisibility spell would affect them. So they're very good at escaping or getting into situations where they can hurt you, and that's obviously very scary. But what makes them even more terrifying is their mind mastery power. This is just an action. They can use this on their turn, and they can force a creature to make an intelligence save. If the creature fails, it has to attack a creature of the Duergar's choosing. How scary is it when you're a wizard who's backed up by a barbarian and the Duergar just says, hit the wizard, and the barbarian just turns around, because they're probably not going to succeed their intelligence save, and smacks you with their great axe. Ow. But even further, the Duergar Mind Master has the Reduce power. As a bonus action, they can shrink in size. Now, this has a couple effects. First of all, it raises their AC by 5, making them much harder to hit, with an AC of 19 instead. It reduces their Mind Dagger from 1d4 to 1 damage, but that's not a huge reduction, and the poison still takes effect. They also will have disadvantage on their strength saves and strength checks and strength-based attacks, but the Mind Poison Dagger is a dagger, so they can attack with their dexterity instead of their strength and not take the disadvantage. All in all, a tiny or normal-sized, invisible or not invisible, mind-controlling, mind-poisoning Duergar is a scary foe to face. Like, this is a powerful and strategic creature who, if they've got some other weapon-wielding Duergar next to them, could absolutely wreak havoc on the battlefield. So, yeah, they're a powerful enemy, and I suggest that if you're in the Underdark or in some sort of underground campaign, this could absolutely be the creature to scare your players. Any of these can be. Orc Eye of Grumish and Cult Fanatic, great spells, very, very powerful. The Black Dragon Wormling, a classic and terrifying creature. The Duergar Mindmaster, also powerful and great for underground. And if you really want to terrify your folks, throw a Space Clown at them. Anyway, these are my recommendations for CR2 creatures, for Dungeon Masters, to terrify, confuse, and challenge their players in D&D. Make sure everyone's having fun, but still, when a challenge is needed, these ones will not disappoint. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more monster reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.